Imagine, you're a man excited about the prospect of getting to know a woman you had just connected with on Tinder named Sarah. An attractive woman in her 40s, by her charming photos playing with her dogs labeled Serial, Lick Lick, and Pantera. She seemed like someone you really want to get to know. You think to yourself, she seems a bit familiar, and wonder if you've ever met her before. However, asking that would make you sound like you're giving a pickup line, so you decide to ask, what do you do for a living? Instead. I'm a writer, she responds. She, as well, was excited about the possibility of a new romance. I mean, at 42, she wasn't a newbie at love, but dating hasn't always been easy in the life of an autistic person. Constant nerves, the never-ending feeling of awkwardness. This time, however, she wanted to take things slow, slowly removing the mask that she chronically feels she must keep on in front of others. As time passes, you and Sarah eventually get to know each other better, and just before you go on a date, she tells you over the phone, "By the way, I'm actually also a pop star called Sia." You see, this actually happened to a person Sia briefly dated online. What would you do if the person you were messaging on a platform like Tinder told you they were a famous celebrity? This is a story of Sia. Sia's full name is Sia Kate Isabelle Furler, born in Adelaide, Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong or right. It's noted in my research that those living in Adelaide are said to be relaxed and easygoing. If true, Sia's family must be an exception, because she mentioned her family life was very much not relaxed and easygoing. She felt growing up was very difficult, constantly struggling to fit in socially. The relationship her father and her mother had didn't make things easy on her either. Her father, Phil Coulson, and her mother, Loine Furler, never married and went separate ways by the time Sia was 10. Her father went from a happy, fun-loving person to an angry, resentful drug user after coming home from his late-night gigs. His mood swings is what would eventually have her mother leave her dad. But even in the hard times, her love of music grew, thanks to Sia's father being a musician. She often recalled mimicking performing styles in her early days from artists like Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and Sting. Putting on plays, singing, pretending to be other people, using funny voices, it was entertainment. That is what got you love and respect in the house. Regardless of her extreme stage fright, at 17, she masked her way through auditions, landing a job singing for a group called Crisp, an acid jazz funk band in her hometown. Sia often struggled with anxiety. The debilitating feeling almost overtook her just before her first performance, until she was handed a glass of red wine. Her first one ever. It felt good. The warming sensation and the voices that tormented her that said, "You're fat and a loser, a tree trunk," started to dull. Since then, drinking became a daily way to cope with these anxious feelings. The band Crisp disbanded in 1997. In that same year, she found her first love, a waiter named Dan Pontifex. But this love story does not end well. They dated for only a year and a half, but remained as friends. She would later describe him as her one true love. Dan and Sia planned their first world exploration trip together. But a couple of weeks before their trip, she received a call from her mother. That's strange. Why is she calling? She heard her mother's pained voice. "Sia, Dan died. He was in a car accident." Sia was in shock. Dan was in a hit-and-run accident by a taxicab which took his life. Devastated, her drinking and drug use went to a whole new level. To support herself, she was able to get work as a backup singer on unreleased tracks by Jamiroquai and eventually recorded 2 singles released in 1997. Only See and Healing is Difficult, selling around 1,200 copies. Even though she hit UK's top 10, she was still dropped by her label for low sales. Sia later moved to south of England with her alpaca farmer boyfriend and just woke up one random morning to a flurry of emails that flooded her inbox from friends. The song Breathe Me was being used in the series 6 Feet Under. Now, that song was played all over local and indie radio stations. Thinking back, the night she wrote that song, she almost took her life by downing 22 Valiums with a bottle of vodka. It could have been her last breath, she thought ironically. At least she tried attempting to do so, but apparently Valium just gets you to commit sleep, fortunately. She had moderate success in her next 2 albums, hitting top 40s, but not reaching much success outside. The pressure and the chronic anxiety she constantly felt around others pushed her to isolation. Her days were filled with the desire to exit her life, only slightly dulled by the use of drugs and alcohol. She later decided to check in a hotel near her home. Just before leaving her home, she decided to write a note to the hotel staff in hopes of sparing them any trauma of what they may find. Please do not come in. I'm dead inside. Please call an ambulance. With the letter in her pocket, she got up to leave, and just as she reached for the door, her phone rang. With the phone to her ear, she heard, "Squilly-dilly-doo," said a familiar voice. It was an old friend, one that reminded her of how she used to always say this on the phone to her friend back when she still had a spark in her. "There must have been a part of me that really wanted to live," she recalls, "because in that moment I thought, there's a world out there and I'm not a part of it, but I might like to be." And with that, she checked herself into a 12-step meeting the next day. In 2010, Sia met the one person who would change the course of her life forever. It was J.D. Samson, a professional non-binary singer in a band called Le Tiger and Men. Sia found them on a platform called MySpace. Looking at their profile pictures, she thought, they're adorable. Then clicked through another profile picture. But this picture was different. They were dressed up in makeup and a dress. Still adorable. Intrigued, she was determined to meet them. They eventually became a couple after Sia's initial message on MySpace. By that time, she had written music for artists such as Rihanna, Christina Aguilera, winning awards as a songwriter. But she was desperate for change. She hated the fame that came with being a celebrity. The tours, the promotions, and the interviews, it was all too much for Sia. Due to all the stress and anxiety which took a toll on her body, she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, Graves' disease. The music business was essentially killing her, JD once said. Sia wanted to be invisible, incognito, to hide behind a physical mask that she felt like she was wearing emotionally every day. JD encouraged Sia to go in the direction of pop music if she wanted the liberties of being a free expression artist. The problem was, Sia didn't like pop music. But she took JD's recommendation to heart and wrote Titanium in an hour. Sent the demo to JD, and JD just knew. It was a hit. But Sia was adamant not to sing that song. She didn't like this type of genre. She didn't want to be a sellout. Most importantly, she didn't feel bulletproof. Originally, Sia wrote it for Alicia Keys, then passed it to Katy Perry, who felt the song reminded her too much of Firework. And then Mary J. Blige recorded it, but never released it. It almost went unnoticed, until a fan had asked, "You're singing on the next David Guetta album?" Which led to more and more commenters, creating more and more buzz. Sia was upset for a while, as she worked so hard to be a credible artist, and now she's on a cheesy pop house song. However, with time, her anger set aside, she embraced the song. With Titanium released, it went double platinum. Although JD and Sia's relationship didn't last, Sia eventually went on to produce several more mega hits like Chandelier and Elastic Heart. Called a genius by others like Beyoncé, many of her songs have been written in 14 minutes, such as the song Diamond, sung by Rihanna. Sia's strange antics of wearing a big wig to cover her face and doing live performances with her back to the crowd would only intrigue her audiences. After Titanium, her label company pushed her for another album, She said she would do it under the condition that she had full artistic control and absolutely no press, no interviews, no tours, and no media appearances. She thought to herself her next album would be a flop, in hopes of continuing working behind the scenes, and it possibly would have gone that way had it not been for Chandelier. In 2014, she married Eric Anders Lang after only 2 weeks of dating, but filed for divorce in 2016, citing irreconcilable differences. She spent the next 3 years suffering from depression, barely able to get out of bed. Working on her next album was a struggle, but she finally did it. This is where a lot of controversy arose with her interesting relationship with Maddie Ziegler, whom she spotted on a show called Dance Moms. Sia is said to have had an incredible motherly instinct triggered when seeing Maddie on TV being bullied by her dance teacher, Abby Lee Miller. Many have spoken out how they felt their relationship was very inappropriate, as Maddie was only a child and was pushed to do many projects of Sia's that Maddie really didn't want to do, such as play the autistic person in the movie Music, and uncomfortably working with Shia LaBeouf in the music video Elastic Heart.
Video today. Why is he wrestling with a little girl?
I've never danced with a much older guy like that.
Speaking of Shia LaBeouf, she and the Transformer actor dated briefly, which would have been fine. But what wasn't actually fine was that he had a girlfriend famously known as FK Twigs at the time. FK Twigs filed a suit against Shia for mental and physical abuse. Sia stated she had no idea that he was dating her, as he told her he was single. Sia then turned to social media, showing total support for Twigs standing up for herself, tweeting that she's courageous. Now back to Maddie. Doing the movie Music concerned her of what others in the autistic community would think. She even openly has said to Sia that she didn't want to play the main character. I don't want anyone to think that I'm making fun of them. Yet, she was still pushed to play the role. Unfortunately, the backlash in the autistic community said that the role should have gone to an autistic actor instead of Maddie. This outraged Sia. Sia was fiercely protective of Maddie, and to have others attack her goddaughter was too much. On top of that, critics were quick to point out terrible restraint tactics in the movie that should never be shown to audiences as an appropriate method. Sia lashed out on her Twitter page with the most colorful profanities instead of taking proper action, which resulted in further angering the autistic community. Eventually, she closed her account due to mishandling of the situation. To make amends for her actions and poor judgment calls on the movie, Sia publicly apologized for her actions and tried to rectify the concerned matters. Not too long after that incident, she was publicly criticized again for a bold picture statement which included a bloodied up mask of Donald Trump, similar to the one Kathy Griffin had done, which have all been taken down. Unfortunately, this had Sia's suicidal thoughts spiral out of control. Fortunately, with the support of Kathy Griffin and checking into rehab, she was able to work through it all. To also clear Maddie's and Sia's relationship, Maddie, now an adult, has clearly stated that Sia is her godmother and doesn't feel right that the public is portraying Sia in such a bad light. Maddie has shown only love and support for Sia and feels that she got her away from a situation that required her to be saved, saying, "Sia's like a second mother to her." In 2019, she adopted 2 boys out of foster care and opened up to InStyle magazine in 2020 about her struggles with infertility and doing IVF with her ex-husband Lang. She later married Dan Bernard in 2023 and is still currently married. Or so I thought. Apparently, recent news say that Bernard and Sia have split up quietly and is now dating Too Hot to Handle star Harry Jowsey. Wow, she moved on quickly. Or so I thought. Sia and Harry admitted that it was a publicity stunt, that she's helping promote his new show on Netflix, Let's Marry Harry, where he tries to find true love. Aside from her love life, she says she will be releasing another album in the near future, so stay tuned. Sia has been an inspiration to many, even those in the autistic community. She may have had setbacks in her choices, but all in all, she's made a path for herself and others in the industry. Let me know your thoughts on this. See you in the next one.